Hi, this is Jay Billis of ESPN, and you're listening to the ML Sports Platter.
ML Sports Platter back with you all over the major platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it. Download, subscribe, leave feedback, and a 5-star review. That stuff does help an awful lot. We are brought to you by Bryant and Stratton College, Rosie's Corner, and Prestwick Golf. If you're in around Central New York, make sure you get those golf clubs re-gripped. Super important for feel and comfort. Prestwick Golf also has access to new and used clubs from the biggest names in golf. TaylorMade, Ping, you name it, Titleist, Callaway. Go see my man Ed Patterson and his team. Prestwick Golf on Court Street, a proud ML Sports Platter sponsor. Also, want to thank Matt Graham of State Farm. Get a free rate quote today from Matt. Like a good neighbor, Matt and State Farm are both there for you. Any vehicle, home, auto, loan, business, life, you name it. Grab some insurance, get a free rate quote, and ask about the recent rate drop at State Farm as well. SyracuseInsuranceAgent.com, SyracuseInsuranceAgent.com. Let's bring him in, the longtime storyteller, best-selling author, writer, Rochester Business Journal, ScottPitoniak.com, on Twitter at ScottPitoniak. Make sure you get all of his books online where books are sold in major bookstores, including his recent one, Remembrances of Swings Past. It's a great book if you love the game of baseball. Scott, welcome back, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. It's always fun.
Coach Mike Krzyzewski says this upcoming season's going to be it at Duke. What was your reaction to it? I got to be honest, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I was a little surprised, but then the more I thought about it, and I thought he had some interesting comments there, Mike, when he was talking about how the landscape of major college sports, and in particular, major college basketball has changed. This has become the wild, wild west. This transfer portal and thousands of kids in there and stuff. And I got a sense before, one of the great things I think about Coach K is he's always been a person who has been incredible at adjusting to change. And, the first really big thing he had to adjust to after all the success he had was obviously now we're getting into that one and done. And if you want to truly compete and have those types of kids that you're going to need to compete, you're going to have to go along with that system. And he adjusted to that. But I think this is going to take college sports to a whole new level now because, it was always an issue before, right? If I'm not getting enough PT, if I'm not getting enough shots, somebody gets in my head and I'm going to transfer. And that's been going on for a while. But now it's that on steroids. You know what I mean? It's really – so I think he kind of I think he was – he saw that and I think he was getting a little bit, tired of that. And I don't know, it takes even more energy to coach now and recruit and go on. And you also, I guess you reach a point that, what more do you have left to prove? He's certainly on any Mount Rushmore of college basketball coaches, right? And perhaps basketball coaches, period, of all time with what he achieved and what he built at Duke is pretty remarkable. Particularly there on Tobacco Road where, North Carolina was firmly established and rolling at the time. So yeah, that from that perspective, it didn't surprise me. But I also know one of the interesting things, Mike, I've found about coaches is that coaching is an addiction. These guys can't let it go. I think back to the Bear Bryant thing, right? Like where, 6 months after he retired, he's dead. And Joe Paterno was really good friends with Bear Bryant, and he always remembered that. And then there was even right to the end, with Joe Pa that he didn't want to let go. And I even saw that with people like Marv Levy. Now, here's a guy, of all the coaches I've dealt with and have known, here's somebody who has so many other interests in life, and obviously he went on to become, best-selling New York Times author, and he's writing novels at age 85 and this and that. But even that, with all those perspectives and outside interests and other pursuits, he was a football coach. And right up to, if you told him tomorrow, here's an NFL job, I would not be surprised if Mark said, yeah, I'll take it at 95 or whatever he's going to be. And I just think there's just, it's so hard, Mike, to replicate, to duplicate the thrill of the game, of this whole thing of putting a team together, of all the little differences. Every team's different. Every player's different, like trying to make it work, trying to put that puzzle together. There's just nothing that these guys can find in their lives really that can replicate that can duplicate that feeling, that sense of bringing something together and building something to what they hope ultimately is that victory. And so from that perspective, I'm a little surprised. But again, what more to do for this guy? I didn't even mention the 3 Olympic gold medals and stuff, and what people forget there too is just I covered some of those Olympics just before that happened, and also while it was happening with Coach K. And USA basketball was an absolute mess after the dream teams and stuff. I was over there when Melo and LeBron and stuff early on there, like when, they were a joke. Like it wasn't a walk anymore to here, hand us the gold medals. Like what, like we're going to win by every game by 40, 50 points, just not even breaking a sweat. So I think he also did a tremendous job in terms of reviving USA basketball at a time when the world was really making some inroads and catching up. So it's an incredible legacy. It really is. And, and for the most part, he did it. I think he did it the right way. I mean, there's no, we'll see what comes out of this, Zion Williamson stuff that still hasn't all played out.
Well, and Corey Maggette also has admitted to taking a ton of cash too, and look, that stuff goes on all over the place. If there's anybody who think that Carmelo Anthony didn't maybe get a black bag at Syracuse, you're kidding yourself too. All these guys get. I mean, not all, but a lot of these big time programs, as you know, they get the cash behind the scenes,
Yeah, and I mean, let's call it for what it is. This is big time college sports.
Sure.
I mean, it's big.
It's basically pro sports,
business. Yeah, it is. I mean, and going all the way back to Sonny Vaccaro and the sneaker deals and the street agents, like sending this kid to Georgetown and whatever. I mean, and you're getting paid more by Nike than you are by your university. So yeah, there might be a little bit of a conflict there, like who's your boss, who's your daddy, type thing. So yeah, I mean that's certainly a topic for another day, but it's no question that it's big time business, but within the parameters of what he was working with, it was a remarkable coaching job and at first it had to be a remarkable building job for a guy who he had a modicum of success at Army as a head coach. I think he went to one postseason, like NIT or whatever, back when the NIT still meant something. But for the most part, it was like, who's this guy that's gonna, battle Dean Smith and mighty Carolina here on Tobacco Road? And he did okay.
Yeah, he sure did. I think you bring up a great point about the drug of coaching. It's the same thing with athletes. It's the same thing with anybody who is so into, it's just such a passion. Somebody who teaches for 40 years and then all of a sudden, you're done. And it's where's the competitive edge? Where's that burning desire? Where do you get it from at that point if it's over? So I sympathize with these guys. I mean, as much as I joke with people on social media and elsewhere about, man, I wish I could retire tomorrow. There is some truth to that, but it's only because of some of the job. It's not all of the job, and I can't imagine what it would be like. Let's say as I hang up with you, if you were my last interview, if somebody said, "Hey, there's no more best-selling authors. There's no more Hall of Famers you're going to talk to. There's no more that would be hard for me." So I sympathize with these guys, man. I really do.
Yeah, and I do too. And I've been at this, like I've been writing, sports stories for, 48, coming up 49 years. And if you told me tomorrow, no more writing, you can't write anymore.
Yeah.
There would be some incredible withdrawal pains. And I think part of it is, and I'm not saying this is a healthy thing, but we have a tendency, and I think males suffer from this much more so than females, in that we tend to tie so much of our identity to what we do. And again, I'm not saying that's a healthy thing. It's great to have a passion, and you can't be good at anything unless you have a passion for it. What you do. If you didn't want to interview people, well, it's not going to work. I mean, you have a passion for that. You have a desire to do that. And it's a good thing. But everything is a balance, and when the pendulum swings too far on one end, it can become an unhealthy thing, I definitely sympathize with anybody who's spent that amount of time doing anything. I don't care what it is. I mean, any line of work is noble in my mind, as long as it's not doing bad. So if you were a school custodian for 40 years, God bless you. And I could see where it would be tough. Like, I'm not going in the next day. I'm not going to be around kids. I'm not going to be around teachers and whatever, So I get it. Yeah, it is. It is a tough adjustment. But by the same token, those guys are in a stratosphere of money and whatever that you and I will never imagine.
That's exactly right. Rochester Business Journal, Scott Pitoniak with us. Go get all of his major books as well. Online where books are sold and in bookstores, Remembrances of Swings Past, among others. Great reads for this coming summer for you, and on Twitter, at Scott Pitoniak. Let's get to the baseball on the other half of this. You wrote an unbelievable piece, I thought, on Lou Gehrig Day. Scott, this was one Major League Baseball got right. I think a long overdue. Now we have Clemente, we have Jackie Robinson, and we have Lou Gehrig, a guy who, I know you agree with this, takes a backseat to nobody as far as all-time greats are concerned. Get into the piece, tie it into Lou Gehrig Day a little bit here. I know you're thrilled that it happened, and long overdue for a guy who is literally on the short list as an all-timer.
Yeah, I think, Mike, we both have a tremendous affinity for the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. And when you walk in the corridor, the first thing you're greeted by are the three statues, of three men with true character, three men who are truly heroes in the best sense of the word, and that is, Clemente, Robinson, and Gehrig. And yeah, this is long overdue, and you're absolutely right. Baseball got this one right. Baseball's got so many things wrong lately, but they got this one right. This is long overdue. I think the thing and how this all came about, I mean, obviously baseball, whether it wanted to or not, was going to be associated with this disease because of the greatness of Lou Gehrig and the courage that Gehrig, displayed that, particularly, when he knew he was dying. And it's 80 years, since the famous 4th of July speech or 80 years since he died rather. And, so it's something that I'm heartened to see. And there have been people in the game now, who have been touched by this, who gotten behind this cause. And I think it's important to raise awareness, to raise funds. I think one of the disappointing things, if you think about it, Mike, is that here we are all these years later after Gehrig's diagnosis and death, and we still don't know a lot. About ALS. We still don't know a lot about, we don't know its causes, and certainly we don't know cures, although there's, clinical trials that are going on, and hopefully this is going to raise more money for research, and perhaps there will come a time when there won't be a Lou Gehrig's disease, that this disease will be eradicated. One of the other things I found interesting, Mike, with Lou Gehrig's story, a couple of things here, is that, his last season, the season before he ended his streak at 2,130 games and so forth, and took himself out of the lineup and never played again. In 39, and then of course July 4th they had a Lou Gehrig Appreciation Day at Yankee Stadium. But if you look at the season before, where he hit something like 290 and 25 homers and this and that, you could make a case that of all the incredible seasons, and this is the only guy in baseball history, I think, who had 13 consecutive seasons of 130 runs batted in.
It's insane.
I mean, yeah, you look at his numbers, and again, okay, Mike, let's have a discussion. Greatest baseball, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, blah, 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 Barry Bonds. Whatever.
Right, it takes people like 15 names before they drop Gehrig, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and look at this. And so he gets it, and think about it. He gets his life, obviously, cut short is the most important thing, but, here's a guy who still, he was a guy who kept himself in shape. He was dedicated, and knew how to play hurt and stuff. Which, my goodness, look at these guys today. I got an injured quad or whatever. But think about that if you could have played that out. And I didn't see how this whole thing played out, but it was interesting to me. I got an email from Stratomatic Baseball, and they were trying to raise some awareness and funds, and they were going to play out if this had not happened. And my goodness gracious, if you looked at this is a guy who probably would have had 2,500 runs batted in.
Oh yeah.
So maybe 550 to 600 homers, and stuff. I mean, it's just extraordinary when you look at the numbers. They're just incredible. And on top of all that, the streak. The endurance. And admittedly, there were times during that streak where, he got in for one at bat, they took him out. They did a little load management, but nothing like today's sports world or whatever. He was there. He was reliable, dependable beyond belief. So, there's all that going on there. But he clearly, he played in the shadow of Ruth, obviously, and everybody was overshadowed by Ruth. And then, then it becomes his team. And then there's this rookie sensation that comes out of the Pacific Coast League by the name of Joe DiMaggio, who's charismatic and glamorous and is playing the sexier position out center field at Yankee Stadium. And he's overshadowed again. But he's just such an extraordinary figure on so many levels. And the number one, of course, being, how could a person in that situation, be able to display that type of courage, knowing full well he's dying, and there's no solution, there's no cure. This is the way it's going to go. This indestructible person is so vulnerable to this, So it's just, I'm so happy, and I hope that, I just hope that the major leaguers who put on the jerseys, on June 2nd and June 3rd, took just a second to look at that patch that was on their jersey and to kind of, try to Google and learn just a little bit about this person and this person's courage and learn something and maybe be inspired by it.
There's no doubt. And, there's that one famous picture, and it's in all the baseball, for the most part, it's in all the baseball commercial rolls, highlights when they go through, sometimes at World Series time, where they'll take flashes of long ago all the way up until the current day, and they'll mix in Ruth and Williams and Robinson and Griffey Jr., Cal Ripken, whoever. And there's the one of Gehrig, and he's got his shirt off. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about here. And they've got him like swinging. They show like a swing from the left side, and my God, Scott, the arms and the back and the chiseled, muscles of that guy, and you look at what happened in the end, and it just, you look at that and you go, that can't be possible.
Yeah, and you think, like you look at him, and what was interesting, Gehrig did have, he wasn't a shrinking violet. I mean, he went out to Hollywood. He actually talked about possibly having a movie career, and you may go back and look, and you see some of those photos of him, like, dressed up as Tarzan, and and they did a spoof movie, kind of like, I'm retiring from the Yankees so I can go pursue a Hollywood acting career or whatever, and you see the thighs on this guy, and you can see why he had to be a load when he was playing football at Columbia as well as baseball. And there's some great stories, of him playing, when Columbia played Cornell, and there's still people that talk about, researchers and stuff talk about like this massive home run he hit, at the field at Cornell, and he also hit some shots when they were playing Syracuse University, when Syracuse University at the time was playing at Archbold Stadium, which is now the site of the Carrier Dome and stuff, and him hitting just some massive home runs. And he came to Syracuse with as part of the barnstorming tour there, and the busting babes against the Larapin Lou's, and played at Star Park in Syracuse as well, and has some history there. And he and Ruth gave a pregame talk before a Syracuse football game at Archbold Stadium, and I think it got SU against NYU, and this had to be in the 1930s when they were there and stuff. So, yeah, it's just a remarkable story. And again, long overdue to honor this guy. And, you want heroes. There's three right there that are legitimate: Robinson, Clemente, and Lou Gehrig.
No doubt. Let's get to this current Yankee situation. As we record this, a lot of really important games coming up. They just came off the series against Tampa. 1, 2 of 3 would have been really nice to get the third one. Obviously, with Garrett Cole on the mound, they've wasted so many of his starts this year. It isn't even funny. But you've got a bunch of games with the Red Sox. Home and away. You could take advantage of a twin team and a Royal team here. The Angels lacking pitching, injury problems there with Trout and company. I happen to think June is a key month in this season, Scott, to make us believe if this team really is better than we think. Because after watching the Tampa series, after watching in May what they did, they swept the White Sox and they played well against Tampa in another series, but then they get swept by the Tigers. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I just don't believe in this club. Maybe June tells us a little bit more one way or the other. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Well, it could if I could see them. What you're talking about is consistency.
Right.
They've been a streaky team, and like you say, there are moments, that White Sox series and stuff where, and two of the Tampa games where, yeah, they can play with anybody. But the thing that bothers me and why I wonder if they can sustain a streak is that they beat themselves in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
This is the worst, Mike. This is the absolute worst base running team I have ever seen, and that includes the Bad News Bears or whatever. I love fundamental baseball, and I know maybe some of the analytical people don't like some of that stuff, but the analytical people can't tell me that it isn't important to field the ball, to throw the ball, and to know how to freaking run the bases. And when you're on second base and there's nobody on first, and the ball is hit in front of you to the shortstop, you do not take off for third base. Gary Sanchez. How many blunders has that guy made? And then in the same freaking inning, you got Gleyber Torres gets picked off when you don't matter. You don't matter. What is going on here? So that's hard to watch. You ground into more double plays than any team in the big leagues. You run yourself out of more innings by far than any team in the big leagues. And as it stands, you don't hit the ball well. So you have a much, much smaller margin of error in which to score runs, to manufacture things, and yet you exacerbate the problem by doing these foolish things. So can that? I don't know. Can that be resolved? Can Gary Sanchez on the base paths be? Can he stop having these moments of utter, I don't know, lunacy or what? I don't know what happens. He freezes, and the other guys too. Not just him, but he certainly has been, at the forefront of this. So, I don't know. Can they be a consistent team if they continue to harm themselves this way? I don't know. They're going to have to show me because, they're part of their. We have met the enemy, and he is us. They don't help themselves, and so can they string it together? They have enough talent, but we've got to see some consistency from Gleyber Torres. I think there were some positive signs that we're seeing from Clint Frazier, and I think on Duhar, those two guys could be key for them in that you can actually start getting some guys on base. Setting some tables, as opposed to let's keep waiting for that strikeout, and then maybe an occasional 3-run homer. I look at Stanton. I mean, 3 hit games. Oh, there we go. We got a quad injury.
Right, he's done, and then he's done again. Yep.
Yeah, every time he comes back, Mike, from one of these things, how long does it take? It's like a spring training.
It really is.
Before this guy gets his timing back or sees pitches. You can just, you look at him up there. He's swinging. He's flailing at things that are like a foot they're almost in the ground and they're a foot outside.
He makes Alfonso Soriano look like Tony Gwynn, doesn't he?
Yeah,
As far as like
know,
patience at the plate, my goodness.
but he doesn't pick the ball
I
up.
know.
It isn't just
I know.
it isn't just I'm swinging at something up in my eyes or whatever. He just doesn't pick the ball up. It's like, wow, he's not seeing something. It's like you want him to have a vision test or something. So that I just don't know. I mean, you're going to get Luke Voigt back, but is he going to get hurt again?
Yeah, he's another one though. I mean, they're all. He's a muscle man. He's a home run muscle man. He's always hurt.
There's always an oblique and this and that. So I don't know. I mean, the pitching. Look at the pitching has been far better than I could have imagined. I mean, and maybe you get Kluber back. They're talking about as we talk right now that he's gonna start throwing off of on flat ground, which is encouraging already to have that. Does Severino come back? Is that's like acquiring a trade. If you can get him back, if he's good, he's supposedly throwing 98, and he's going to have a rehab assignment coming up as we speak this particular weekend. But pitching's not the problem to me right now. Like, I mean, yeah, there's question marks in the starting rotation still and stuff, but the pitching has been definitely good enough to win. They've kept them in games. It's just they're hitless wonders, and they just disappear. This is a team that's very difficult to watch. Like they get down 2-0, and you get disheartened because you go, I don't know if they can come back from 2 runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, they're not a fun team to watch because of that. Because when are they going to get a hit again? Or does your big inning? Your big inning is, okay, I walk with the bases loaded and somebody scores on a wild pitch.
Yeah.
And you get 2 runs and then it's done.
Right.
When are you going to bust open the gates here? When do you get 7 runs? I mean, come on. They don't do that because they're the worst team in the league with runners in scoring position. And it's just dumbfounding. Like, what's going on there? I don't get it. You got a million coaches. And so, when I look at it, me, I'm not a Brian Cashman guy, and I've been on his case forever, and I still am because I just don't think he put together a great club. There's just too many, all or nothing guys, and then you sign Odor, and it's like, oh yeah, there's a table setter, yeah, right, and he can't, and he's a suspect fielder, and by the way, he got released, and that's your answer. There's no answers on the farm club. You refuse to the kid, the outfielder,
Florial. Yeah.
Florial,
comes up, great game, gets sent back down. Yep.
Let him play, Mike. God bless Brett Gardner and stuff like that. But he's done. He is done. So done. He's over the hill. He's overmatched. He's been a great Yankee. Don't retire his number, please. But he's, give him a day. But he has no upside. He's just got downside. He's done. Play the kid. The kid has upside. All right, he doesn't have enough, at-bats. He's been hurt, so he doesn't have enough at-bats to this stage, and we don't want him to be overwhelmed. What are your options? There's no quick fixes for this team. There's no, blockbuster deal here that's going to change everything, I mean, they've painted themselves into a corner here, and you don't have a farm system with a lot of guys ready to provide you with answers like you did a couple of years ago. So it's frustrating, but you're right. Long-winded answer. June will be telling. There is definitely time to make hay, but to me, what I want to see most of is the Yankees themselves. What are you going to do to help yourself finally instead of hurt yourself?
This year, the base running, I am so with you, has become maybe the number one frustration. But why? What do you allude that to? The bad base running? Is it just that the players are that clueless? Is it on Boone? Because he's the manager and he should be helping more or getting these guys getting their asses in line more, taking responsibilities on the coaches. Is it on? Is it maybe on one of the franchises in baseball that uses analytics the most, where it's like, oh, hey, when you get on the base pass, it's just kind of, you're just out there. It's like a playground. You don't worry if you fall off, the monkey bars or whatever. Don't worry about if you let go or if you don't grip too high. It's okay. If you get thrown out, it's okay. It's analytics because, we got to still hit a home run anyway. Like, who's to blame for it?
Well, I think there's a lot of blame to go around. I think number one, look at certainly, Boone, and we don't know what he says in the clubhouse, but whatever he's saying, it's not working. I know he is, he's Mr. Glass is always half full, and, publicly, right? Like, no, oh, yeah, we'll talk to him or this and that. But at some point here, come on, enough is enough. Like, you need to, sometimes you have to go public and get on somebody's case to send a message because it's not working, whatever you're doing in a clubhouse. As far as coaching, I mean, Reggie Willits is a well-respected, base running coach and outfield coach and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, some of this is on them, but, how much is, I look at Sanchez, and I don't think it is like, I'm not trying. It's just stupid.
I'm so over him.
Yeah, I am too.
Oh,
I am too.
Gosh.
But it's just like with these guys, like, did you ever play the game before? I mean, a ball's hit in front of you, you're on second base. You don't go to third base, okay? Or if you're going to go, you don't go until the ball's released to first.
Yeah, or if you go, you better be cool, Papa Bell, right? And you get in bed before the lights are off.
Lights are off, right? Right. I mean, so and it just happened again and again and
it's
again.
Awful.
And admittedly, like the other night when the substitute third base coach sends him in, and he's out by 30 feet. That's the base coach. But I'm tired of hearing that these are not mistakes of aggression. Okay, they're dumb mistakes. Look, I understand about we're pressing. I'm trying to make something happen. Blah blah blah. You can't tell me that when you have twice as many innings ending on plays that you ran into outs of any team in the big leagues, that's all because you're trying to be aggressive and make something happen. No, you're being stupid in I would say in 75% of those cases. You're being dumb. You're violating things that I don't know if the analytics people care or not. That you don't do that stuff when the ball's hit to the shortstop in front of you, or you don't make the out. You don't try to stretch a single into a double when you're down 6-2. Stay at first base, okay? Because you don't matter. Do your analytical thing. You do not matter. You need 4 more runs. Don't kill the inning. Another guy's coming up here who could maybe do something. So, I mean, it's situational baseball. Mm-hmm. It's fundamental baseball. It starts in T-ball. Do not play the game enough. I mean, you got to think a little bit out there, too. You got to, my goodness, before the ball's hit, if I'm a fielder, what am I going to do if the ball's hit to me? This is Little League, Mike. This is T-ball. If the ball's hit, I'm on base. What am I going to do if it's a pop fly or if it's hit over here? What am I going to do? It's situational baseball. It's so 101, rudimentary. And that's really what I find infuriating, and again, like if it were just like bad luck, we're hitting a ton of atom balls, and whatever, or I did an aggressive thing trying to make a play, and a guy did a Roberto Clemente throw on me. Well, hats off to you. It's not
right. You lost in competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're losing in stupidity. You talk about baseball IQ.
It's awful.
This is the dumbest team in baseball right now, as far as I'm concerned. On the base paths, and again, situational baseball is also with runners in scoring position. Oh, I got a guy in third. I got to find some way to get him in. You got to hit. Now, and one other thing I will say too, that has hurt the Yankees an awful lot. And I like the guy, and I think the guy, I totally don't agree with, fans calling in and say like, "Wow, he got his contract or whatever." DJ LeMahieu is not getting it done, and he is a huge catalyst for this team. He's the guy getting on base and stuff. I don't think, believe me, when people say he's not trying, he got his contract, that's baloney. I mean, that it's poor timing, for him that his average would. But that said, he's got to start producing. That really hurts them. That he is 60 points below whatever last year or whatever in batting average. He's got to start being a catalyst because he's not getting the job done. And And again, I like the guy, and I don't think it's a case that he's not trying or whatever, but something's not working with him, and he's got to start producing. He really does.
Okay, I got one more for you. About a minute or two I have left. Aaron Judge. He's almost 30 years old, and we've talked about this a bunch of different times about what do you do with Judge? Do you give him a long-term deal? Do you not? He's right-handed with power. He's always hurt. They've got Voit. They have so many right-handed power, swing for the hills guys. But Aaron Judge also is a decent athlete. When he's healthy, he impacts the game not just at the plate, but in the field. He's got a decent arm. He's great in the clubhouse. He's the face of the team. This year, he is playing fairly well, Scott, as you know. I mean, what do you do now with him at this particular point? Do you still need to see a whole? Like, do I need to ask you this in after Labor Day?
Yeah, I think you do because, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, I mean, I look at when he's healthy. You're right. He is an impactful, game-changing player. He changes things in that lineup. As you said, he's not Stanton. You can put a glove on him, and you're going to get close to, if he's healthy out there, you get close to a Gold Glove right fielder, and he's got a really good arm, and stuff. He's a plus player. He runs well. He runs extremely well. He's a plus runner as well. But here, again, he's got to show me, durability, that he can be available. And the other thing that enters into this, and this is the cloud that hangs over the Yankee organization right now, is Stanton's contract. Mm-hmm. It hangs over. It's a cloud. We can't blow it away. It's cloud. It hangs over. It's a heavy, heavy storm cloud. Their hands are so tied. It impacted this team, from, making the move for the ace that it should have made for a couple years ago and could have won a World Series title.
And even recently, you could get Trevor Bauer in the offseason. You could now give Judge his 6-7 years and be done with it, and you wouldn't even blink at it. By the way, the other cloud that's a little bit darker that's behind that cloud is the Aaron Hicks contract, but I'll let you go on.
Yeah, no, you're
They're
right.
Both
there's that,
awful.
There's that, and are you going to realize, also the money you invested in Severino, because you extended him too, and then had the misfortune. So and this all goes back to Brian Cashman, and the other thing, and you and I have spoken about this before off the air and whatever. It's like not only Cashman but Hal Steinbrenner.
Yeah, I mean, is he around? Does he care?
Yeah, if my goal, Mike, is the luxury tax rather than the World Series title, and if I've got the second most valuable sports franchise in the world, what's my incentive? I didn't like a lot of things the old man did, George Steinbrenner. A lot of things. There are a lot of things not to like about him, but the one thing I would never question is that he wanted to win. Now, he screwed up an awful lot. There's no question about that. But I was talking to some friends this morning, like, can you imagine him, like, with this? After like, several of these Sanchez things on the base paths? Oh. Can you imagine? And Aaron Boone, like, we got to look. Aaron Boone, you know what Aaron Boone reminds me of half the time now? Is like, I got to look at the film, Mike, to see what happened out there. I got to look at the film.
Got to look at the tape. Yep.
Yeah, I got to look at the film. My eyes, like, I didn't see, I didn't see what was going on.
Sanchez gets nailed at third, and Steinbrenner is in the dugout before the inning's over. I mean, literally, like, and the thing is, he did screw up a ton. He was a way better business guy than he was a baseball guy, but he did make some decent baseball moves. Historically, you look at Reggie Jackson, you look at Catfish Hunter, you look at he had his hand in a lot of that stuff too, and he finally did. I mean, eventually he got pissed because they lost the 0-1 World Series and the dynasty ended up ending. You can say it ended then or in 03, whatever the timeline is.
Right.
But you know what? Even though he did the handshake deal with Gary Sheffield, they all wanted Jason Giambi. They all wanted multiple players. The A-Rod deal, all that stuff that went down fine. But if you're a Yankee fan and you say, hey, I'm going to trade you all these bad ones but yet here's what we're going to get in return for moments, players, the Hall of Famers, championships, division championships, pennants, all that other sort of thing. I think you sign up for George. I do.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to, sweep under the rug. Like, he screwed an awful lot up. And as a baseball guy, let's again be honest, and we've talked about this before, Bob Watson and Gene Stick Michael, when George was suspended and could do nothing, that kept this thing going. Because otherwise, Mariano is pitching in Detroit.
Sure.
And who knows, like Bernie is playing in Boston and Posada somewhere else, and they don't win. And this dynasty doesn't go. Who knows? Jeter might have even been gone at some point. I mean, but again, my point is, like, he cared about winning. Did he? He went about it wrong many times and stuff. But I will never ever question that he wanted to win. I'll never question that. I don't know about Hal. Never hear from the guy. And Cashman. Cashman's the spokesperson, and I'm tired of his baloney. And Aaron Boone's a good guy and stuff, but enough's enough. This is New York. The fans care, and you better not get to a point where they don't care, because we've said this before, like with the Bills and Sabres and stuff, like in bad times or whatever. The worst thing you can have is not an angry fan, but an apathetic one that doesn't care anymore. And they could be moving in that direction, because, again, this is a team that is not only struggling to fulfill its potential, but it's unwatchable at times. It's really not a good product to watch, because they play stupid baseball. And they just hurt themselves time and time again.
Best-selling author, nationally honored columnist, and a TV contributor for years, Scott Pitoniak, on Twitter, @ScottPitoniak. And get all those books where books are sold online, Amazon.com, major bookstores, and Remembrances of Swings Past is the most recent one. For sure, go pick that up for your summer reading. Scott, you're the best. Thank you, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. It's always a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening to the ML Sports Platter all over the major platforms. Hit me on Twitter, @MikeLSports. Thanks to Stanley Law Offices, Brian Comboy of Mass Mutual, New York State, and our terrific friend Matt Graham at State Farm Insurance, SyracuseInsuranceAgent.com. Get a free rate quote today. Also want to mention, huge thanks to Welch & Company Jewelers and our good friends at Axe Exotic Pets. If you are in and around Central New York, make sure you get on over to Axe Exotic Pets. They've got an unbelievable array of special exotic pets, from tortoises to parrots and more. And they've got all your equipment as well, your aquariums, all the food, crickets, mice, you name it. They've got it all, really do. Carl and his staff do an unbelievable job at Axe Exotic Pets. Go like them on Facebook and check them out on a daily basis for what's going on at Axe Exotic Pets. Scott Pitoniak, tip of the cap to him as well. Thank you, Scott, for coming on. Just does an unbelievable job talking all sports, and his books are amazing, and really has a pulse on so many things, because he's been doing it a long time. There's no doubt. Get him on Twitter, @Scott Pitoniak. As I always tell you, enjoy the games.